Hello, this is the next part 5 of the infamous snake building. Let's get going. So in this episode we're going to add on the segments of the snake. So let me just remind you where we got to. So we added the apple that can be collected and moved, but the snake is not growing. So we need to change some ways the game works to do this. At the moment we've got one piece of the snake. So what we need to do is change it so that it uses a list. So in the list it's got all the pieces of the snake, and as we add another piece on, it will get added on to the list. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. So some major changes to the way the snake works. I've tried to explain this in my PDF with some diagrams, so if you're not sure as you're following along, please refer to that. So let's get started. So gone are the X and Y positions. We now need a segment list. So you can call that what you want. I'm calling it a segment list. So the list is going to be an array, which is square brackets. So this will hold all the pieces of the snake. So maybe it's got 5 segments. So the way it works is we are going to have inside this array, we're going to have arrays inside arrays, and each subarray will contain the position of that segment. So the head is going to be at 10, 10. So that's one piece of the snake. So we could add another piece to the snake. We could add one at 10, 11, and then so on. So we could add more and more pieces, and these will get added on automatically. So this is element 0, segment 0, this is segment 1, and this is segment 2. Now within segment 0 we've got an element 0 and an element 1, and within segment 1 we've got an element 0 and an element 1. So maybe I could console log this out just to make this a bit clearer. So if I do console.log, if I console.log the snake.segment list, and I look at element, if I look at the whole list, what I get, line 12, I get an error. That doesn't want to be in there, does it? Of course it doesn't. Let's put it in. Let's put it down here. So what happens is we get this array object. So if we print the whole thing out, we get the array element 0, 10, 10, element 1, 10, 11, element 2, 10, 12. So if I want to access this element, the head, I would do element 0 like that, and then I'll just get the position for those 2 pieces. So here we've got element 0 and element 1 within inside. If I wanted the end, the tail of the snake, I could put 0, 1, 2. So this would be element 2, and it will give me 10, 12. So if I wanted the Y position, this one here, let me just make it a different number. So this is the Y position of element 0. What I would do, I would say I want element 0, and within element 0 I want element 0, 1. So I want element 1, and we'll get the value 18. So this is how we're going to read this list and use that list. So let's take that out. Let's take these segments out. We only need the head to start with. So let me just get my notes. So we need to change quite a bit of code for this to work. We need to have a look at changing the way the snake is drawn, because at the moment the snake won't draw, and that's because we've taken the X and the Y out. We're now using a list. So all of that's got to change. So let's change that first, just so we can see that it's working. So we've got to go to the draw method to have a look at where we're drawing the snake. So we're drawing the snake here. I'm just going to make this a bit bigger. So we're going to use this, but now we don't have a snake X anymore. It's changed. I'm just going to separate this out so that you can see it a little bit clearer. So the first line here, we've got the snake X position times the cell size. So we need the snake X position, but the snake X position is now in the segment list. So we're going to need the segment list. So instead of snake X, we need snake.segment list. We need element 0 for the head, and then we need the 0 element for the X. And then for the Y position, it will be the same thing. Let's just move that across. We've got the snake segment list, element 0 for the head, and then inside we want the Y position, which will be element 1. So effectively we're getting element 0 and element 1 of element 0. Hope that's clear. If not, please refer to my PDF where we can have a look. You know, I've put a couple of diagrams in that might help explain that. So let's go back. We've now got the snake being drawn. For some reason it's in a weird place, but it's on the screen. So have I typed something wrong somewhere? It shouldn't be there. Just wondering why it's there. Let's have a look. The apple's moving, but the snake shouldn't be. Did I type? Oh, I did. I typed something wrong there. I thought it should be in the middle. Okay, that's better. So now we're drawing the snake in the correct place. But the other thing we're not doing is we're not updating the snake properly anymore, because we've got snake X again. And really it shouldn't be snake X. It should be, where's my draw loop? Draw. It should be here. This here is snake, what used to be snake X. So I'm going to get this section here. I'm going to copy it. So we're going to do this. We're going to put segment list here and here. Now that allows us to move our snake again. Let me just refresh that. Well, it's moving fairly rapidly. Let's try that one more time. Right, the reason it's not moving up and down is because that needs to be a 1. There we go. Not a 1S, a 1. I keep clicking on the wrong window, that's why. So we've got the snake moving. Now to make this a little bit easier, I'm going to cache this as a variable. So let X equal and let Y equal. This will just make it easier to do some of the next bits. So instead of writing all this out again, we can actually use X and Y, because I've saved. Oh dear, what's going on with the selection? There we go. what we've actually done is we've saved this new snake position temporarily inside the variable x, and this variable x here has function scoping, so it doesn't exist outside of this function. So this x only exists inside this function. So that should now allow us to do the same as before. If I can actually collect it, that would be fun. Yeah, so it's working as before. So now we're ready to start implementing adding on another segment. So the way this is going to work is a little bit odd when you first think about it. A new head. What we're going to do is every frame, every time the snake moves, we're going to add on a head in the new position of the snake, and then we're going to take off the tail of the snake. So let's add a new head. So snake.segmentList, and we're going to use a method called unshift. And what unshift does is it allows us to add something to the beginning of the array. So we basically want to add the head to the beginning, which is the X and Y position. And what that will do is it will allow us, if I can if I can collect it. Oh my god, I can't collect the snake, can't collect the apple, it's too fast. It will allow us to, oh my god, I collect it. Oh my god, I'm terrible at my own game, it's too fast for me. It should allow us to collect our snake, but it is not doing that. Oh, it is doing that. We're just not drawing it. So if we console log this, and what we could do, when we come down to the update, we could actually console.log. Let's console.log the snake.segmentList. So what this will do, as you can see, the array, every time it's moving, is getting longer. Let's do the length of the array rather than the... So you can see the snake is increasing in length every frame. We can't see it because we're not drawing each segment yet. We'll come on to that in a minute. So what we need to do is we need to remove the tail section. So remove the tail. So again, snake.segmentList, and this time we'll use pop. So the pop will, like a stack, it will pop off the item at the top of the stack, or in this case the last element of a list. So the last thing that was put on the list, at the end of the list, it will be popped off and removed. So what that will mean is the segment list will remain 1. We're adding to the front but taking off the end. So that should all work fine. Now what we need to do is draw and add on the extra segments when we collect the apple. So let's add on some more segments. Collected the apple, so to make a new segment we need to add something to our list here. In some languages you might append it. In JavaScript we use the push method, so like push and pop. So snake.segmentList.push, we're going to push something to the end of the array, and we're going to push on the location of the apple because that's where the next segment is going to appear. Apple.y. So that's where we've collected the apple from. So we're going to, that'll be where we're going to push the new piece from. And there's different ways you can do that. that's probably just the easiest and simplest. It might not be 100% correct. So that's probably going to be increasing the snake length. So as you can see, I've collected 3 apples. Let's see if I can collect another one. So yeah, 5, 7. I don't know why it's collecting more than 1, but it shouldn't be. We'll fix that. So basically it's collecting the apples and adding them on, and then it creates a new position for the apple. Okay, so the next job, the last job on here, is to actually draw all the segment lists. So at the moment we're only drawing the one segment, this one here. What we actually need to do is draw all of them, and there are a few ways we could do this. We're going to use a for loop, and we could do it with numbers. So we could say for I don't know, let I equal 0, I is less than snake dot segment list dot length I plus plus, and what we could do, we could say we want element I to be drawn, and that would work. So let's just start that again. So now we've got adding on extra segments. I don't know why we're getting 2 each time. I'll fix that. So we're getting a longer and longer snake as we go. We can self-intersect and go out the bounds, but it's effectively working. I am going to code this in a slightly different way because I've coded it in a different way in the tutorial. So I've used a more modern JavaScript. Let segment, so an individual segment, and then of snake.segmentList. So what this does is it loops through all the segments and it grabs them one at a time and calls them segment. So we replace this with segment. So you can see the code is a bit shorter. Segment. And it's great if you want to work with a list where you need to go through everything in that list. It will go through everything in this list and it will pull them out one at a time as this value segment, so we can treat each one. So very handy. It's not very useful if you don't want everything in the list. Maybe you want the first 5 things in a list, then it's not useful at all, but in this case it is useful. And in this case it's also not working, and that's because that should not say I. It should say, in fact it shouldn't be there, because this object here only has the one element to it. So I wish I won't keep clicking on that code. So there we go. Going off the screen here. Right. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I am bad at this game. So I'm only going one direction, that's it. Whoa. It's quite hard. Oh dear. Oh dear. I need to slow it down maybe. Maybe it should have a speed based on your age. Okay. There we go. So that's working okay. It's not working perfectly. We'll do a little fix in the next episode and add a little bit more, but we're nearly at the end of this tutorial, so perhaps one more to go. Okay, and I'll see you in the next episode.